the rooftop invitation with my name and his signature. The envelope was heavy, thick cardstock with the Albion's crest pressed into the corner. Inside was a single ivory card, printed with careless elegance. Private reception, rooftop bar for Adrian. My name sat where a title should be, embossed like the hotel had been waiting for me all my life. At the bottom, a handwritten line in black ink curved too confidently to be a coincidence. 10:15 p.m. if you still want the truth. M. I fix watches, the kind people inherit and don't know how to wind. My bench smells of oil, brass, and patience, my hands trained to ask time to behave one reluctant second at a time. Thea, my partner, writes about art, filling magazines with words that make donors believe they were born generous. We've lived together 5 years. We keep 2 glasses by the sink because we built a rule out of water, pour before the sentence that changes a day. Last night Theo came home smelling of cedar and the last hour of a lobby. He kissed me with the accuracy of a man who knows maps but not tenderness. Patron preview at the Albion tomorrow, he said, loosening his tie. They'll want me on the roof for the lighting cues. He said it the way you admit you've already written the ending. He showered, folded his towel into a square, and slept on his side as if our bed had geography he didn't want to cross. Now the card sat on my table like a verdict. M could have been anyone. It was. Max, photographer, consultant, opportunist, someone who trailed Theo at openings with a lens and a mouth that made donors feel immortal. I'd seen the way Theo's shoulders angled toward him, the way their conversations leaned closer than grammar. The card was not an accident. It was an overture that assumed I was already part of the cast. At 10, I walked to the Albion. The lobby practiced its marble voice, the chandeliers humming with money that had forgotten its origin story. I took the elevator up past floors that had learned to keep secrets. The rooftop bar sprawled against the night, string lights draped like careless constellations. The air smelled of mint and intention. Max stood near the railing, city lights sketching him taller than I remembered. Black shirt, sleeves rolled, collar open one step beyond invitation. He smelled like cedar and the last drink of a lobby that thinks it can forgive you. He turned as if he had been listening for my footsteps. "You came," he said, and it wasn't triumph. It was relief pretending to be casual. "You wrote my name on paper you didn't own," I said, holding up the card. "That's persuasive." He didn't come closer. He let the air do some of the work. 2 glasses of water sweated on a low table between us, condensation learning the art of patience. He poured before I could refuse, slid a glass toward me. Our fingers almost touched. Heat wrote a petition at the edge of my hand. He stepped close enough to let breath exist between us and then stopped, an inch away. That inch had its own rules. He let them stand. "He thinks he's meeting me after the patrons leave to end it politely," Max said. "He promised your editor he wouldn't make the room nervous. I thought you should have the truth before it gets curated." "How long?" I asked. Words clipped like seconds. 8 months, he said. He didn't dress the number. Started with rain and an elevator that wanted to talk, a lobby that sells permission in soft lighting. I ended it twice. He sent me a photo of your breakfast with a caption about my framing. I respected his sentences more than his choices. A saxophone player tested scales in the corner, notes pretending not to be listening. I watched Max watching my mouth. He lifted his hand again, toward my wrist, and stopped at the same small border. Heat negotiated the treaty my skin didn't sign. He lowered his hand. Restraint was the most indecent thing he'd done all night. The door from the stairwell opened with the humility of a hinge trained for diplomacy. Theo walked in wearing his docent face, the expression he saves for crowds who want to be told they're right. He saw me. He saw Max. He saw the glasses and the inch of air with politics. He closed the door gently, the way a man shows respect to hardware even when he hasn't to people. "Okay," he said. The word did its job without costume. "You could have kept the card out of our kitchen," I said. "You chose not to." "I chose incompetence," he said, and I almost loved him for giving the noun its due. And then cowardice. I cheated. I told myself it was weather, that home is a noun that survives rain. I told myself your patience was elastic because you repair what other people break. I called spark structure. I don't want to hear me again. Max had shifted toward the railing, the city offering him plausible deniability. He raised his hand toward my throat, stopped at the inch, and let it fall as if the gesture could complete on its own. His mouth did nothing heroic. "What do you want me to do?" Theo asked. His hand stayed visible. He's learned reaching is a contract the wrists sign before the brain approves. "You'll end it," I said. "You'll sleep on the couch we refuse to call a guest anything. Next week you'll tell me what this was twice. Once with your magazine voice that spackles narrative, once with small words. I'll decide what my hands can hold without lying to my wrists." "I'll do that," he said. The skyline disagreed, but politely. Max exhaled and stepped close enough for warmth to map my jaw. He put his mouth near my ear without touching. "Thank you for not making me a story," he said. "We both would have believed you." He left without letting the door audition for punctuation. Theo and I stood in a silence that didn't want to be noble. The city leaned in with its own gossip. The saxophone player found a melody donors would pretend to love. "I'm not leaving tonight," I said. "We'll walk home without touching. We'll wait at crosswalks because other people's knees and our better natures deserve seconds. You'll sleep on the couch. Tomorrow you'll end it without complimenting him. Next week you'll bring me small words." He nodded. He didn't cry. I loved him for that, even when I wanted him to. We walked through a lobby that smelled like consent and into streets that didn't add commentary. At the corner, a cyclist veered too close and Theo's palm hovered near my hip, offering me a mercy I could want and refuse in the same breath. I refused. Boredom is a tool as honest as any lock. At home, the kettle auditioned for a role. He laid blankets on the couch with curator care. I slept in a bed that stayed neutral. In the morning he came back from the lobby that sells permission smelling like nothing, the cologne of someone who wants to try again. He told me he had ended it. He told me twice. In polished magazine voice, sequence, context, polite contrition. In small words, he liked being two men because one wasn't tired. He mistook adrenaline for architecture. He can be one person if I let him do the work. I let him. That isn't nobility, it's arithmetic with care. He slept on the couch for 6 nights and measured the distance between our door and our bed like a runner who doesn't post his splits. On the 7th, he came to me with hands that remembered the lazy precision we taught each other early and almost abandoned. There is an erotics of restraint that doesn't charge admission. There is a thrill in choosing not to ruin morning. 2 days later, Max texted a line, "Thank you for telling the truth under lights that sell lies." I replied, "Try it without the skyline." He didn't answer, which was the second best thing he did. Work stayed exact. A client brought me his grandfather's Omega that had gained 7 minutes a day since the funeral. I coaxed the balance spring back into humility. A teenager asked me to polish a crystal until it forgot it had cracked. I left the line faint, the way honesty sometimes looks best. Time returned to behaving, at least for now. A week later, I saw Max outside a gallery opening, leaning on a wall like he was waiting for the next confession. He looked smaller. Maybe my anger had stopped needing him to be tall. He said hello without trying to rent my afternoon. He did not smell like cedar. The air between us behaved. He left without auditioning for a moral. Here's the part people tell badly: I wanted him. I wanted the inch, the heat, the way his restraint wrote grammar on my skin. I wanted to make a mistake elegant enough to narrate. I didn't. Wanting is a sentence, not a command. Bodies vote. Ethics count. Boredom is mercy if it helps you like yourself at noon. Theo and I adjusted the frame. 2 glasses before 3 sentences. Less reach, better touch. We stopped letting the kettle choose tone. At parties, we stand near exits not because we plan to leave, but because doors help air behave. He keeps his phone face down like a man who wants attention to be a design, not an alibi. If another envelope lands on our table with my name where math belongs, I will bring water. I will sit where the exit is obvious and not call that cowardice. If a hand lifts toward my neck, I will let the inch exist and answer in a tense I can survive at breakfast. I will keep choosing verbs that keep us possible. End, stay, tell, work, touch, wait. And when I coax a stubborn second hand back into sync, when time finally admits to accuracy, I will think about the rooftop card and the night we refused finale for repair, and I will call that deliberate air the most difficult thing I know how to make, and the only one that still holds when daylight forgets its lines.